So I first felt called into ministry when I was about 9. I prayed for the first time by myself and really felt, it wasn't that God answered the prayer, but I felt like I was heard and I thought this is what I want to do with my life, but then never felt smart enough or worthy of being a minister. Like when I was growing up, I felt like people who were vicars were born vicars. Like they just felt like this is what they'd always done and you couldn't imagine any past life. And then I hummed and hawed about until I was about 16 and I was in business studies and there was 2 classes higher and lower. And they were going on trips and it was to get to think about the future. And I won't say which class I was in, but one class went to New College Durham, my class went to Walker's Crisp Factory. And the teacher said, it's a treat, right? She just told us on the day for the best students in the class, and there was 9 of us in the class and 7 of us went on the trip. Like, I just think she couldn't get a big enough minibus. And there's nothing wrong with working in factories. I've worked in factories. I said like it should be like national service, that everybody works in like a factory or a call centre. And when we were there, we had to fill in this insurance form and it said like Mr. Miss, and then it had additional boxes and it was like Reverend, Doctor, etc. And at that point I thought, you know what, I can never be an additional box. I can never achieve more than just what I've been given or born with or where I am now. And I had that feeling for a long time, but then what changed, I think, was realising that if I have a calling, it's bigger than me, it's bigger than what I feel, and that God can overcome my fears. And it kind of lit a passion in my heart one day when I heard about a horrible man who was a criminal in Los Angeles. He murdered several women, and he got away with it for so long because on the police files, the police would write the initials NHI, which meant no human involved. So they wouldn't investigate these crimes because these women were known to be prostitutes or known to be drug addicts. And I realised that that's still how we treat people today. Like, so universal credit is a very modern thing of no human involved, and same with people living on the streets and people in prisons and things like that. And I think the sense of just Christ being born, being a human being, and that humanity and what that means and saving all of us just made me think this is bigger, that is bigger than any fear I have. I kind of box it out, and people need to hear that they are loved and they are valued and they have worth. The phrase I got told a lot during this process was, we don't have a lot of people like you here, which is, on the one hand, I know what they mean and it's good, but on the other hand, it's a bit scary. And so I assumed that I'd be sent down south or sent somewhere else, but the decided was like this kind of local voice maybe needs to stay locally. But for me, just moving 20 minutes was a big change. I'm like one of the few members of my family who have left Easington. We all kind of very locally based. Well, I think there's an element of it that, although I have not a very warm reaction to power, there is this sense of authority and this sense of the ability to, to marry people, to do all of these things that God has called you to do in ministry is a real blessing. Just to serve this word and to be the carer of souls in that community, regardless of where it is, I think it's a very serious thing, but it's also such a blessing. And I do think, what I love about the Church of England is this sense of a church everywhere and a church reaching out to the corners. And I think being part of something, that is the job. It's not part of your job, may occasionally include, you're meant to do this constantly, constantly reaching out, constantly doing this. And you're following this example that's been done for centuries. It's like, this is what it is. In ministry, we must always remember what it was like the first time you went to church, the first time you heard this. So every day when I hear the night has passed and the day lies open before us, I just think, wow, and I hope I never get numb to that. So I think ministry, it's important that we have that, but we're also called to remember the power of it and that kind of dynamic. it's strange. I cannot deny, I don't see a particularly glamorous ministry, if that kind of makes sense. So the places I've been feeling called to are more like, say, chaplaincy in a prison. I was in a hospital and that was wonderful. I'm working with homeless people at the minute. Very much working with the people who are often seen as the forgotten, seen as like an identity. Now that can happen in a parish. Hope and the kind of despair, those kind of tensions are what I always find ministry to kind of be about. You must seek one and bring the other type of thing. Obviously not bringing the despair, but you know what I mean. It's like you must kind of seek out where God is needed, but also where God is. Like being in the prison and being, you know, working with homeless people, I learn much more about me than I kind of give, I feel. That, you know, I'm kind of being renewed and being refreshed by it and seeing God in places that I never thought possible. I mean, I think a lot of it is you go into it with eyes open. People will say, well, you know, it's hard work and things like that, but I think if you're passionate about it, it should be. I think you need to stay, it's this thing of being both, you know, in the world but not of the world. Like, never lose contact with where you've been, your experiences from the past. And I think just to kind of take that risk. So I had a young daughter, a young family when I came here, and left my job as a civil servant with, you know, pension and pay rises and all that type of stuff. And what pushed me was to think, you know, when my daughter's 30, if she said to me, I want to take this chance, I would never say to her no. I'd say, do it, you'll regret it if you don't. You know, that's what life is, it's for. Life is for the living, and it's to do it and to take those risks. And, you know, you never know where that might take you. And just remember that everybody feels daunted, or most people feel daunted. And that's a natural, normal response. And I think it's realising the enormity of what you're taking on. You know, if you don't think it's a big deal, I'd be more concerned than if you think the weight of this seems quite big. You know, I'd take that as a positive.